I'd like to present you with a plaque to recognize your role in this celebration. The plaque reads, WashDOT thanks the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation for their dedication, generosity, and support for the Sanpoil Ferry project. Dated today. Thank you. And now I'll ask the chairman to give us a few words. Thank you.
Jeannie, can you come up, please? And before I open with my remarks, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Glenn James for offering us that important prayer this morning. And I just wanted to state that those are important lifeways that we must do to set us on this right track as this new vessel starts its course. So if you can come up, we'd like to acknowledge you with this Pendleton blanket. I also want to thank our other two singers. I call them our two-man band, Benny and Dan. They won't be retiring soon, but I don't think they're for hire, so I want to give them a special appreciation. Thank you. I also want to recognize our other Colville business councilmen that are in the crowd. I was told that there was a list and it was read off earlier, so I'm assuming you're out there. Is Nancy Johnson out there? Nancy? There's Nancy, raising her hand. Mr. John Cyrus? John, Ben Marchand right here. Our former councilwoman and former chairwoman, Jeannie Jarrett, is here. Joe Somday, it's Joe. Jack Ferguson, there's Jack. Dan Brudevald, who's our land and property director, who's up front right here. And without further ado, Mr. Jason Palmer, who is so integral in this and making this happen. So I want to give them a round of applause. You know, I really can't add to what's already been said about what this vessel means to this community and what it means to everybody that uses it. It is the only gateway to this part of the reservation, and as you can see, it's Lake Roosevelt's a huge impediment, and it's one that has always constantly been a challenge for us, even before the Grand Coulee Dam was built, but more so since it's been constructed. And you know, for our residents in Keller, this is an important piece to them being connected to a lot of different things. In particular our children. As you can see down here below, this was a part of a boat that carried our children across the boat every year. So for us on council, it wasn't a question if we do it, it's how quickly could we get it done. Because we realized it was very, very extreme. It was something that we've seen as a problem before it was even brought to our attention. And our Keller representatives, Jeannie Jarrett and others that had served in the past, were always mindful, and it always remind us on council that we needed to remember some of the important pieces in the Keller district that needed to be maintained, and this was one of them. So I'm acknowledging that, Jeannie. I heard it loud and clear, and the rest of the council did as well. This is a beautiful boat that we have here. Voss did a tremendous job on it. I know initially when we were going through the numbers, they came in far below their competitors on their bid, and that helped make this happen. And you heard earlier them talk in great detail about the true collaboration that it took for this to be here today, for this to be possible. And for us, we fired up our political machine and got a hold of our representatives in the DC level and the state level, Miguel Perez Gibson and Mr. Brian Gunn, who are our lobbyists on the state and federal levels, to begin setting up meetings and pressuring the policymakers and decision makers that this was an important piece to not only our economy but to our communities, and for us to get the funding available to do this. And I can't say enough about the gracious relationships and dedication that has been shown by WashDOT throughout this process. They've responded in the way that we would expect to address this matter and to give us this real beautiful boat that we have here today. So I also wanted to thank Patty Murray, who was helpful on the federal side. I'd like to thank Joel Kretz. I'd like to thank Bob Morton, and I would like to thank Mrs. Brown, who was helpful on this as well. So I didn't keep a list in front of me. This is stuff that I've been familiar with over the last 4 or 5 years that I've served on council. I was a part of different initiatives on trying to lobby various folks to help us get to where we are today. So a lot of this is from memory. I've been here throughout the whole process, and it's been a struggle, but it's also been rewarding. And the reward is what you're standing on today. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank everyone for turning out today.
So next up, we've got somebody pretty special to WashDOT, and that is George Capacci, who's our WashDOT Ferry's design and construction engineering. So George, give him a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you all for coming today, to be here today. I am, as she said, George Capacci, and I am the Deputy Chief of Washington State Ferries for Operations and Construction. And my team played a big role in building this vessel that you're standing on and will be a part of this area for a long, long time to come. It is a great privilege for me to be here today on behalf of David Mosley, our Chief Executive, who couldn't be here, and luckily I get to fill in for him then, so it's a great pleasure for me to be here and see this come to fruition. We were at the first striking of the arc down in Rainier, Oregon, when we started putting this vessel together, and to see it come together and to see it a part of everybody's thoughts and prayers and energy and maybe some sweat and tears, Steve, but you know, the work that went into the building of a vessel in my 40-year career at sea is tremendous, and it doesn't happen, as you've heard, in isolation. It happens from a lot of people coming together and having a vision and working together to build this ship. So it is a true pleasure to be here and to just acknowledge the role that Washington State Ferries has played in this. We are the largest ferry system in the United States, and if you just count vehicles, we're the largest ferry system in the world. So we carry about 10 million vehicles through the Puget Sound every year, and we are proud to have been a part of this one. I would like to acknowledge some of the people that are with me from my office in Seattle. My senior port engineer, Tim Browning, please raise your hand, Tim, as Tim, and our vessel construction manager, Ron Wolfram. We're in our Seattle office and did a lot of the project management, but actually the people that have already been recognized on the deck plates, Steve Peters as our vessel project engineer, and Joe Knobb, who is our inspector, have the greatest amount of sweat and tears into this vessel that you see here. It is a great labor of love that they put into the ship, and I just thank you, Keith, for recognizing them, and my hat's off to you all for the work that you've done. This is a great ship that will serve this route, and it is built to the modern standards. It is built to the current Coast Guard inspection procedure and inspection regulations, and it is an incredible accomplishment. And we will be proud of this vessel for decades to come. If the Martha S lasted for 60 some years, I think this vessel will be around here for at least that long, and probably more, because it is built with some great modern upgrades and improvements in it. So thank you very much for attending. We are very proud, and again, to be a part of this. And but it is not a Washington State ferry. We still have a real vested interest in this vessel. So I appreciate you all coming. Thanks very much for your attention.
We got a couple more speakers.